Jeffrey, hello. Oh, you're still muted. Let's see if we can work this out. I did my part to unmute it. Oh, okay. You do it, Jeffrey. You do it.
You keep muting me.
That's so fun. That's like being in the car, and there are two buttons for the window to go up and down, and you're competing for who. That's hilarious. Okay, I love it.
That's a word you could use. Yeah. Okay.
Why not? Because after all, we did say, or I said, we were going to have fun today.
Yes, we are.
Role model for everyone out there that we're doing this on just in the moment, not without all our prep and everything that we're used to do, and it can be great. It doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't have to be complicated to be useful and wonderful.
Absolutely true.
All right, so it's all yours.
All right, thanks. Larry, can you do what you need to do to give me the full screen here? Because I need everybody to see what I'm doing.
I think that would be me.
Okay.
I got you.
Not, but I'm speaker view.
I see only you.
There. All right, fantastic. Well, it's all confusing here. We're all learning, like you said, and I can touch my face with impunity because I went down to the office yesterday and I rescued my bottle of hand sanitizer.
Oh, nice.
The only thing I had up to this point were 2 bottles that I had that came out of swag bags when I was riding in Pelotonia for the last couple of years. They give us a little bag with all sorts of fun stuff in it, coupons to restaurants that I'll never eat at. But these little Bath and Body pocket backs were fantastic. And then one of those has been in the car, one of those has been in my pocket. We're all making changes. Things are a little different, but one of my favorite movies is a movie that I can almost guarantee 99% of the people watching this have never seen. It's called Buckaroo Banzai, Across the Eighth Dimension. It's one of those movies that stars a lot of people who went on to become famous. Jeff Goldblum's in it. Peter Weller is in it. Ellen Barkin is in it. John Lithgow is in it. Christopher Lloyd is in it. And it's a very strange movie. But my favorite line is something that I use when I'm working a lot with clients. It's something that I use a lot as a suggestion when I have somebody actually in the chair, eyes closed, giving them powerful, positive suggestions. No matter where you go, there you are. And what I mean by this is that stuff is going to happen, things that are completely beyond your control. And no matter where you go, there you are with all the stuff that you've learned from all of your coaches, all of your skills coaches, all of your mental coaches. I'd like to show you something right now that you can take with you no matter where you are. Just for a moment, I want you to stop and just make a mental list of 2 things you see, 2 things you hear, and 2 things you feel. And as you've done that, if you didn't realize it while you were doing that, look back on it now and realize that you kind of had to go inside for a second. You had to turn off some other channels of sensory input in order to get that information, in order to really think about what you hear and see and feel. And it's important to understand that. This little technique that I just showed you is called a reality check. And it's something that you can do when things seem to be going on and you have no way of coping with that situation. Well, what is within your control in that situation? What you focus your attention on. And if you can pay attention to 2 things you hear, 2 things you feel, and 2 things you see, you're using up bandwidth that you were wasting by running thoughts, ideas, sounds, feelings inside your mind, inside your body, that were causing you to not achieve the goal that you had in mind. We interface with the world around us through our senses. We have 5 senses. My friend David Snyder would say that we have at least 6, one being the proprioceptive sense. It's the one that allows you to touch your nose with your fingertip and know where that is. It's why that's part of the drunk test, because when you're inebriated that screws up your proprioception. But we have at least 5. We see, we hear, we feel, we taste, and we smell. And we can pretty much eliminate taste and smell because each of us has a favorite way of interfacing with the world. For those people who were genetically predisposed to sense the world through taste and smell, generations back, most of the people with those traits did not live long enough to pass those traits on to their progeny because they were smelling and tasting things that killed them. That's my theory anyway. I wasn't back there to check. If someone invents a time machine and wants to waste it on that, be my guest. Let me know. I'm interested. But primarily, we interface with the world with our eyes and our ears and the nerves throughout our body that allow us to feel things. You know, there's a reason why they call emotions feelings. They feel like something. And we have control over these to a certain degree, much more than we have to the things that are actually happening in the world. Let me tell you what I mean. I'll give you 2 examples. The first one is especially useful, and it's not useful for everybody. If there are people who, watching this, who sometimes say to themselves, what'd I do that for? Or worse, there's a voice inside your head that's the critic. Says nasty stuff about you. Says that you stink. And worse. In fact, if you let it go, if you let it run long enough, you're going to get to a point where that voice inside your head is just bearing down on you. It's the only thing you hear. I'd like to invite you to do it a little differently. You can change what that voice inside your head is saying. But that's hard. Let's do the easy way. I want you to change who is saying what it's saying. I want you to think about the time when you're most likely to have that happen. And I realize that not everybody watching this has this problem. So if you just simply don't do this, sit back and recognize that there are some other people getting some value out of this. Think about that voice. Think about that mean voice. Now, take that voice and move it out of your head. I'm going to assume that it's in your head. If it's already out, that's great. Leave it there. Congratulations, you've just proved to yourself that you can control one aspect of this. Second, I want you to convert that voice to Daffy Duck. Yeah, exactly. Daffy Duck has a purpose in the Warner Brothers pantheon. Daffy Duck is the fool. He is not to be taken seriously. Nothing that comes out of Daffy Duck's mouth makes any difference to anybody, anywhere, ever. So I want you to think about the most horrible, nasty, unkind thing you have ever thought about yourself, and I want you to put that in Daffy's voice. And I want you to try to care. Try to care what Daffy Duck says to you. Daffy Duck thinks you suck. Try to think about what that sounds like and what that feels like when you know that Daffy Duck hates you. Daffy Duck thinks that you are inferior. Daffy Duck thinks that you are a sub-person. And honestly, can you care? Try. Try real hard. Try and fail to care about Daffy Duck thinking that you suck. Exactly. You can't. You can't. And I have tried to update this for a more modern cartoon character. I have yet to find anybody that works that I know about. You know, there's probably some like bizarre something on some 15-minute thing on Adult Swim that's perfect, but I have no idea what it is. Nor do I care, because we have Daffy Duck. And Daffy works just fine. You can change the qualities of an experience, even if you can't change the experience. And by the way, all of this stuff that I'm going to be telling you about works with memories, and it works with your imagination, and it works in real time. You can change the way that you perceive the sounds inside your mind. You can change the way that you perceive the sounds that are being directed at you directly if you use these techniques. Here's a way to do something if you're a person who more easily relates to the visual realm. And there are ways to tell this. If you are a very colorful person, you like wearing lots of colors, if you talk really quickly, if you're always looking up when you think of an answer or remember something, chances are really good you're a visual person, but honestly, you'll probably just know that. Visual people. Let me back this up. Do you know anybody who's afraid of spiders? I don't mean just ick, spiders, I don't like them. I mean, there are reasons why you might not like spiders legitimately. But if you know somebody who just absolutely freaks the heck out when they're around spiders, I mean, you know, oh, look, there's a spider way over there. Ah! If you know anybody like that. For anybody with headphones on, I'm real sorry. Sorry. You're shopping at the as-is department. There is a filter because I'm trying to be family friendly. But other than that, I'm not holding a whole lot back right now. Because inside their mind, that spider, which is about like that, and it's way the heck over there, is this big, and it's right here. And logically, rationally, they know that, no, it's that big and it's way over there. But inside their mind, emotionally, kinesthetically, visually, it's right here. Which tells us something. That we are constantly, without any effort or intention, distorting what we perceive. Sometimes to great effect, sometimes it's just a little thing here and there. But keep in mind, whatever we're seeing isn't the way it actually is. We're constantly deleting, distorting, and generalizing all the stuff that comes in through our senses, and mostly that's good. Prove this to yourself sometime. You could do it right now, or sometime maybe when you're outside is my favorite time to do it. Stop for a second, close your eyes, and try to hear everything. Notice how far off into the distance you can hear, notice all the quiet sounds you can hear. And you're going to be able to hold that for maybe about 4 seconds before you start hearing the sound of the blood rushing through your veins and you have to stop. Special Forces soldiers are taught how to do this for extended periods of time. Most people's minds are not set up to do this, and that's fine, because so much of the information we're bombarded with all the time doesn't mean anything. We see stuff and we hear stuff and we feel stuff, and most of the time it doesn't matter. You know, I'm sitting here in front of an open window. Does it matter that I might notice the movement of the sun across the sky? No, not really. There's lots of stuff that's going on that does not rise to the level of conscious awareness. We've been talking a lot about the mind. You have the conscious mind, you have the unconscious mind. In between, there is a filter. That filter is called the critical faculty. I have to call it that because I am friends with the guy whose dad invented that word, and he gets kind of snippy if I call it the thing that everybody else calls it. It's the critical faculty. Everybody else calls it the critical factor. Fewer syllables. Go ahead, use it. Larry won't know. And this filter does 2 things. 2 main categories of things. First thing is, it serves as what I call the yes, but mechanism. You've experienced this yourself many, many times. You have made a conscious decision that you are going to achieve a goal. Not some sort of overarching life goal like, today I'm going to read the chapter, that econ chapter. Or today I'm going to do my laundry. Or today I'm going to, you know the kind of thing. And you say to yourself, and today I'm really going to do it. And yet there's this little voice inside your head that says, yes, but here's a couple of very good reasons why it makes so much more sense to do that tomorrow. There's a chain of restaurants called Joe's Crab Shack. You may have one where you live. There's one in Columbus, which is near where I am right now. Greetings from beautiful Gambier, Ohio. Hi, Chelina. But on the back of the Joe's Crab Shack down in Columbus, it says, free crab tomorrow. And they never change the sign. They don't have to. You show up, it's like, hi, I'm here for the free crab. Oh, no, man, that's tomorrow. But the sign said, right. And it'll still be tomorrow. I don't know why I think stoner surfers work at Joe's Crab Shack. I just do. But that's the thing. The free crab's always tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to do that tomorrow, do one of two things. Either stick a date on it. I'm going to do that tomorrow, Sunday, whatever Sunday is. I think it's the 28th. No, today's the 28th. Is it? Yes, it is. Tomorrow. Yeah, I know. You lose track. Either tell yourself, I'm going to do this tomorrow, Sunday, March 29th, or give yourself a break. Tell yourself you're not going to do it because you're probably not going to do it anyway. We need to be kinder to ourselves during this time. Cut yourself the slack that you're cutting everybody else. And if you're not cutting other people's slack, well, do that. So we have to get through this filter in order to change stuff in our unconscious minds. There's this thing called critical faculty collapse. I hate that term. It makes it sound so catastrophic. It makes it sound negative. Critical factor bypass, that's kind of nice. Relaxation of the critical factor, that's my personal favorite. In order to put new information in the unconscious mind, pull information up to conscious awareness, or make some changes in what's going on there. Now, of course, the other thing that the critical faculty does is that it takes all that sensory information that we're exposed to constantly, and it runs it through a filter so that we can screen out the stuff that doesn't matter. Think back to high school for a moment, if you will, please. I think there's a rule that every single high school has to have like a 16-foot ceiling and a hard floor and hard walls and just be like this gigantic echo chamber into which we put children and feed them. So think about sitting at the table talking with your friends, and you're able to pretty much focus on that conversation. I used to play cards with my friends over lunch every day. Because you could do that back then. You could do a lot of stuff back then. We used to bring guns to school. They were in the back of our trucks because we were going hunting afterwards. Not me personally, because I'm just bad at it. But a lot of my friends, yeah. Or they've been hunting that morning because you can hunt from sunup. Really, I know. It was a different time. But the thing that hasn't changed is that you can still sit around that table with all that noise going on all around you, and yet you can still carry on that conversation, completely screening out all that other stuff, unless somebody says something that sounds like your name. And all of a sudden, your attention goes, it's like your golden retriever, and squirrel! They didn't say it any louder. They didn't say it in any way that would differentiate it from anything else that they said, except that the noises coming out of their mouth sounded like your name. Because that filter between your conscious and unconscious mind is set to let certain stuff through. I was talking about movies before. Another one of my favorite movies is the Blues Brothers movie. And yes, it's a total 80 guys movie. I'm an 80s guy. Bear with me. And there's a scene early on in the movie where Elwood goes to the prison, picks up his brother who has been serving time, brings him home to his apartment. They're in Chicago. And Elwood's apartment is right next to the elevated train tracks. The train runs right past his kitchen window. And Jake looks over and says, "How often does that train go by?" And Elwood said, "So often you won't even notice." And he's kind of right. I mean, people who live next to the train track will tell you, and honestly, this is all anecdotal, but I keep hearing it. Sorry, I just sounded like every single person that I banned on Twitter in the past 6 months. People do screen out repetitive, constant, annoying sounds, images, feelings. We do it all the time. Because the filter adjusts to let us know what we should and should not be aware of, what does and does not have value. Think about that for a moment. Think about what you might want to let in or let out in your world that's been turned the other way before. But getting back to the spider, we know the spider isn't right here. Even the person who feels like the spider is right here knows the spider isn't right here. And because the mind does this automatically, with just a tiny bit of practice, we can learn to do it on purpose. I want you to think about something just for a moment here for me. I want you to think about something, it's a feeling that you don't like and it doesn't have any value for you. It's not something that you use as a driver to help you achieve your goals. It's just something that really you'd like very much to be rid of, or it's a thought that just bothered you so much, and if you didn't think it as much, that would be nice too. I'm going to describe some things I'd like you to do to that image in your mind's eye. Some of these may be the way it already is. If that's okay, that's fine. Leave it like that. But I want you to think about that thought, that idea, that thing that just bugs the heck out of you and you wish it would just go away. Not a driver, not something of value. And we're going to do this. Hey, Larry, your camera just came on. I want you to take the picture and I want you to move yourself out of it. I want you to imagine, so I am, Joni, I'm watching you put away your groceries. I'm watching somebody put away their groceries. Anyway, I want you to take that image and I want you to step out of it. I want you to not experience it like you're actually there. I want you to experience it as if you are watching yourself on television. I want you to make that picture a still picture and begin moving it away from you. And of course, as things get further and further away, they appear smaller. And as things get smaller, they get out of focus. I want you to put a frame around it, a great big heavy black frame around this gray, tiny, blurry smudge way off in the horizon. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen one of those old black and white TVs. You may have seen a picture of one. You may have seen this on television, on a good TV. But those old black and white TVs, when you turn those off, the picture would go black and it would shrink down to one tiny little bright white point. And then that point would just go away. I want you to take that little postage stamp size smudge with the big heavy frame around it. You don't even know what it is, except for the fact that you put it there. You couldn't make it out. And then just go ahead and make it shrink down to that one tiny little point, one tiny little point, one tiny little point, and gone. And as you do, notice how it feels different. Now, if there's something that you have in your mind's eye that you want to be more compelling, you want to be more drawn to it, you want it to be even more attractive. Maybe there's a picture in your mind's eye of some sort of success, something that you hope to achieve, something that you did achieve that makes you feel really, really powerful. The opposite works too. Think about that thing that you want to be even more motivated by, that really compelling image that you remember or you've constructed inside your mind. I'm going to tell you to do some things with that too. Go ahead and do those things. If the way I describe it is the way it already is, that's great. Leave it like that. First thing I want you to do is I want you to step into it. I want you to be there, actually experiencing it. See it through your own eyes, hear it through your own ears, feel it through your own body as much as you're able. And if you have to imagine some stuff, that's fine, because we're always deleting, distorting, and generalizing the stuff that we process anyway. Way more of it than you realize is already made up. So you're in there, in that moment. Make that image a moving picture. Make it colorful. Fill your mind's eye with this brilliant representation, because it's more than just pictures. There will probably be sounds, there will probably be feelings. And if you're one of those rare people who has difficulty making pictures inside of your mind, every time somebody suggests that you make a picture, even me, remember how it feels, or imagine how it feels. Because I have found that people who believe they can't make good pictures in their head are excellent at imagining or remembering how something feels. And for you, that works just as good. Just as well, excuse me. Make everything a little bigger. Make everything a little brighter. Make everything a little sharper. You've seen 4K TVs. You maybe have even seen 10K TVs. I want you to make this 40K inside your mind. Big and bright and close and crisp and just a little bit bigger, a little bit closer than real, and notice how it feels. Yeah. Physical sensation. There's a lot we can do just by focusing our awareness, and we do it all the time. How many of you you finished some activity? Maybe you were training, maybe you were out hiking with your family, or anything in between. And you notice, after you're done doing whatever it is you're doing, or you're taking a break, you notice that you have suffered some small injury, a bruise, a scrape, something like that, and you have no recollection of having gotten that. And you didn't notice that you had it until you saw it. Well, what happens then? You notice it, don't you? You notice it all the time. It feels like it's the only thing that you can focus your awareness on. It wasn't there a second ago, or at least it didn't seem like it was. But when you notice it, it's there. In fact, the more you notice it, the more you try not to notice it, the more you feel it. Because the unconscious mind is amazing. It's super incredible, powerful. Although it really does only have one overarching job, it does it in a myriad of different ways. One thing that is not especially good at, though, is negation. Now, there are people who will tell you the unconscious mind can't do negation. That's not true. It's just not its first thing. How many of you have younger siblings or cousins or little kids you used to take care of, or you have children of your own? And this usually happens somewhere between the age of 4 and 6. In a moment of mindlessness, you hand a small child a glass of something from the dark staining beverage family. Grape juice is a favorite. You hand this to the kid, and with the best of intentions, you say to that child, "Don't spill that," or worse, "Don't drop that." What you focus on, you tend to get. Because in order to understand what "don't spill that" or "don't drop that" means, you must first understand what "spill that" or "drop that" means. Otherwise, it's just gibberish. And little people take a little bit longer than the rest of us do to process information. So you say to a little kid, "Don't drop that," and they got to figure out what you mean. Okay, what is don't? Okay, don't drop that. Okay, I've got this "don't" here. I have no idea what to do with that, so let me just put that off the side. Okay, drop. Oh, I'm good at that. I know how to do that. And that. And mommy just handed me something from the dark staining beverage family. So drop that. Wait. Oops. Now, it happens much more quickly than that, but it still happens to those of us who don't have to parse sentences in order for us to understand things. So it's very, very important. You know, think about something very, very, very normal. I work with a lot of weight loss clients. And until they come to see me, they say things to themselves like, I can't buy any cookies. 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 And they come out to their car with a cart, back when there were still things on the shelves, full of cookies. Actually, I've noticed that the cookie shelf tends to be rather well stocked. Can't get pancake mix for love nor money, but cookies, they're there. Anyway, because the unconscious mind heard, buy cookies, 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 buy cookies. And by goodness, they bought some cookies. And I may be exaggerating somewhat when I describe some of these things, but only somewhat. Only for effect, only for you to get the sense or the idea of what I'm talking about. You can use this same technique to deal with a small identified injury. Goodness gracious, if you have a headache that's been going on for 3 days, do not do this without going to see your doctor first. I don't want to help somebody get rid of some pain and it turns out to be a brain tumor. But you've got a scrape, you've got a bruise, you've got a boo-boo, you got a cramp. This is a 2-step process. It's actually a 5-step process, but if I tell you it's a 2-step process, it sounds easy, and there really are 2 steps. We just have, step 2 has about 4 parts to it. Step 1, that's the easy part. Focus on where it doesn't hurt. We're so conditioned to pay attention to where it hurts. What's the problem? What's wrong? What's right? What's good with the world? When people start talking about that, we think they're nuts. It sounds so bizarre. Why focus on what's good? Because that's what gives us the energy to focus on the things we need to fix. So focus on something that feels good. How is that patch in the middle of your forehead doing right now? Inside of your left elbow, up inside your right shoulder blade. There's some place that feels okay. That helps you believe. You need to believe things can change before they will. Even if you need to start from a place where you don't necessarily believe that. Power it up, turn it up. Make things bigger, brighter, closer, crisper. Get inside that experience and experience it like you're actually experiencing it now. That's right. And notice what that feels like. Notice the qualities of that experience. I'm going to be talking about that a lot. The qualities of the experience. How does this feel different from something else? That's the way we know that it's different. We know that it's special because the qualities of it are different. Years ago, I came up with this theory. I call it the rule of more is more usually. And it goes like this. Things that have more sensory input, things that are bigger, brighter, closer, crisper, louder, have a greater physical sensation to them, have a greater emotional impact to them. It's why people go to the IMAX movie theaters, because the experience is so much more than even if you're sitting at home at your really nice home theater or watching something on Amazon Prime on your iMac. Because more is more. I say usually, because there are all these different submodalities, we call them. Fancy word for qualities of the experience. Is something over here or over here? Is it closer or further away? Is it bigger? Is it smaller? Is it brighter? Is it dimmer? Is it louder? Is it sound coming over here or back here? You get the idea. There's a lot to it. Years ago, when I was getting my NLP practitioner training, I did an exercise that took the better part of an afternoon. There were a group of 3 of us. One person was the observer, one person was the subject, and one person, their job was to elicit all of those qualities of a particular experience that they remember. And we each had a go. It took most of the afternoon. And there was this full sheet, 2 sides with 3 columns of submodalities of various different qualities that you could define. And after spending 4.5 hours on that exercise, the thing that I learned was that more is more usually. Every once in a while, there will be a particular quality of an experience that for one particular person is more powerful, opposite from the way the book says it should be. And for those people, what that means is that's opposite for them from the way the book says it should be. That's all it means. But you're safe, in my personal opinion, starting from more is more. So if more is more, less must be less. The more reduced the sensory input of an experience, real, imagined, or experienced, the less the emotional component is. More is more, less is less, usually. which means that as we change qualities of the way that we think about something, we change the way we feel about it. You've already seen that you can get more excited when you make an image bigger, brighter, closer, crisper. You can feel less about something if you make it smaller, dimmer, further away, black and white, put a big heavy frame around it to contain it in that space. You've discovered that we can change the qualities of something inside your mind, a sound, a voice, by turning it into Daffy Duck. Now, of course, the opposite is true. If there's a voice inside your head that you want to believe more, then make it sound like somebody for whom you'd walk over hot coals. And I don't necessarily mean Tony Robbins, but if Tony Robbins floats your boat, make it Tony Robbins. I did an experiment with myself once, an exercise using this technique, and it was Batman. Hey, why not? That's what worked for me. If that doesn't work for you, what does? Do that instead. With a feeling. Just make a note of this. If you don't have something that doesn't feel outstanding right now, put it in your back pocket, save it for a rainy day or a painful day. Better yet, I'll tell you a story. Joni and myself and a couple other people were out in Las Vegas a few years ago to get our hypnosis certification, hypnosis instructor certification, excuse me. And while we were there, one of our classmates had a headache. It was a headache that she gets regularly. It's a tension headache. She knows exactly what it is. She needed some help with it. And so our instructor, Richard Nongard, was nice enough to give us the use of his session room. And very briefly, I just had her relax, close her eyes. I would like to point out something very important here. You do not need to be relaxed to be hypnotized. You probably will be when you work with most hypnotists. That's the direction in which we work. I work that way, but you don't have to be. One of my best friends in this business is a comedy stage hypnotist, and I go to see his show whenever he's in Columbus. And the people up on his stage are dancing and running around in the audience and talking to the hypnotist, talking to the audience. They are not relaxed. They absolutely are hypnotized. I do comedy stage hypnosis shows myself. I do after prom shows for the most part and after grad shows. And I will tell you that I've had kids come up to me after my show. I myself was a little skeptical. And young ladies, young men would come up to me after the show and said, did I forget my name? Was I really dancing in my chair? Yeah, you were. First time that somebody said that, it's like, holy crap, it works. Yeah, it really does. I was as skeptical as everybody else. It's true. What can I tell you? You don't have to be relaxed. You probably will be. Allegedly, there is a United States government definition of hypnosis. Us old farts remember having a sort of a file box full of file cards. Came from a company called, I think, SRA, and it was a list of possible careers and jobs. They were exposing us to this stuff in like the first and second grade, and you had to decide what it was you wanted to do when you grow up. Yeah, that isn't chilling. Maybe they still do it. I don't know. But there is now a official card, I'm sure it's all online now, for a hypnotist. The United States government has a job description number for hypnotist. And in order for them to have a description of hypnotist, they needed to have a US government approved description of hypnosis. Here's what I've been told it was. Might still be. Bypass of the critical faculty. We talked about that filter. Collapsing, relaxing that filter to allow information to go between the conscious and unconscious mind, unfiltered, unhindered. Bypass of the critical faculty with appropriate selective focus of attention. Well, that's pretty straightforward. You're paying attention to the thing that you need to be paying attention to. Nothing about relaxing. So you don't have to be. If you're one of those type A people who think, I can't relax, I can't be hypnotized, I'm just so stressed out all the time, fantastic. I'm going to use that. If you come into my office like that, I've got this wonderful, relaxing, comfortable chair. It's a chaise lounge. It was really the first piece of adult furniture that I ever bought. And it's held up well. The thing is like 15 years old, and then it looks like it came straight off the showroom floor. It's wonderful. I said, see that comfortable chair right over there? You're going to stand right next to it. And we did the whole session standing up. I was walking around in circles, practically yelling at him the entire time, talking as fast as I possibly could. Guy came in to quit smoking. I got referrals off of him 3 years before he moved to California. I was so sad to see him go, but professionally it made sense for him. So just keep that in mind. Recognize that it's the focus more than the relaxation. I know some people get hung up on that. You don't have to. You can if you want to. If it gives you value, go ahead. It is all about being resourceful, isn't it? That's the word I like to use with my clients, resourcefulness. Utilizing what you have where you have it. But I was talking about this lady's headache, and she sat in Richard Nongard's comfortable client chair, and I said, I just want you to think about that place where it hurts for a second. I know you don't want to think about it, but just for a second, think about it. Notice where it is, notice the size, notice the shape of that place that doesn't feel as good as you know that you want it to feel, and go ahead and just draw a dotted line around that. It could be great big heavy dots, it could be little dots, it could be itty bitty tiny little dots, it could be medium-sized dots. It's completely up to you. And then I want you to fill in that dotted area with a color. Doesn't really matter what the color is. Sometimes people select red for pain. That seems to be popular. Fill that area in with your color. And then only as quickly as you're comfortable doing so, let that color begin to fade away. Just fade back as it gets more and more pale, lighter, lighter, lighter. And when it's all gone, then do the same thing to the dotted line. Fade that, fade it down, fade it back. And notice how it's different. It'll probably feel like something, but it won't hurt. I don't think he invented it, but if you ask about half the hypnotists out there if they have ever heard of spinning and they tell you yes, they're going to say that the person who invented it was David Snyder. The other half will tell you that was Melissa Tears. I don't think it was either of them. I think they both just figured out something around the same time. Because you get that feeling in your body, that feeling in your chest, that feeling in your stomach. You know the one I'm talking about. Sometimes it's a good feeling. It's an excited feeling. Fritz Perls, who was somebody who was instrumental in his research influencing the development of something called neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. You don't have to remember that. Said that anxiety is excitement without oxygen. Think about it. Think about the feelings that you feel in your body when you're excited. Think about the ones that you feel when you're anxious, and realize that when you're anxious, you're not breathing as deeply as you are when you're excited. You're breathing shallowly. You're breathing from the chest. Instead of relaxing your abdomen and breathing from the diaphragm, it's the tension in your body, which you can force to relax as you give yourself that permission to take a nice, big, deep breath. That's right. Fuel your system. I'm not qualified to talk about the chemical processes that happen within the body when oxygen is added in, but you know it's there. And it lets you feel better now. So focus on the way you want to feel. Recognize that, yeah, what you're going on right now is the problem, so what's the solution? When most clients come into my office, I ask them, if I had a magic hypno wand, and I don't, but if I did, I want to be very, very clear, because I don't want there to be any misunderstandings, 2 sessions down the road. And where's that hypnosis wand you said no. But if I did, remember that part where I said, but if I did? Yeah. So if I did, and I waved my magic hypnosis wand and changed everything that needed to be changed so that you your tomorrow would be the way you wanted it to be today, what would be different tomorrow? And just about everybody starts out with, well, I wouldn't. It's like, no, 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 no. You wouldn't X, so you would Y. And we sometimes have to wrestle with the language a little bit when we're thinking about that, because English is funky. We quite often have more words for problems than we do for positive states. And so you need to, throw things together. You might have to stick two words together that you've never stuck together before. But if it gets the thought across in a positive way, directed towards what you want rather than what you don't, go ahead and do that. So when you're thinking about that physical sensation in your body, the one that, and let's start with, let's do something in line with what I've been talking about. Let's focus on a feeling that you like. Maybe it's a feeling of love. Maybe it's a feeling of happiness. Maybe it's a feeling of drive and motivation. I don't know. You pick one. And as you think about that, notice where you feel it in your body. First impression. And if you say thinking, well, I don't know. Well, if you did know, where would it be? And I know that sounds like a snotty thing to say, and you're right, but do it anyway. It works. Little fun fact. If you even think you can't be hypnotized and you go ahead and pretend to be hypnotized, you can hypnotize yourself. So notice where it is. First impression. Notice the size, the shape. What color is it? First impression. This is where I have to slow things down for a little bit, because I need people to listen to the instructions before they actually do them, because people will sometimes get ahead of me and do something that won't let me finish this particular process, and I have to get way more resourceful than I feel like being, because this process works really well just the way it is, and I don't like it when people take initiative and start improvising. Not on this one. Take the feeling, listen to the instruction, then do it. Take the feeling, pull it out into your hands and hold it there. That's the part that some people don't wait around for. If we're doing a bad feeling, they pull it out into their hands and they throw it across the room, and the rest of it doesn't work because it's over there. And take the good feeling, because you're not going to do that with a good feeling. You want the good feeling. Pull that feeling out into your hands. Make sure you get it all. Sometimes that stuff hides, which is not exactly the way that David says it, but like I said, I'm trying to make this family friendly. Hold it in your hands. Did it change color? Doesn't matter whether it did or not. Just notice whether or not it did. And notice what direction it's moving. Count it clockwise, clockwise. Is it rotating away from you, towards you? Doesn't matter. Just notice which direction it's moving. And because this is a feeling we like, we're going to increase its rotation in that direction. Spin it faster. Put it in your hands and spin it faster. Spin it faster. Spin it faster. Spin it faster. Faster, 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 until you know that it can't possibly go back to the way it was before, and then slam it back in. And notice how it's different. What color is it now? How big is it now? You will probably want to practice this technique when you're by yourself, because if you do it in a room full of other people who aren't familiar with what you're doing, they're going to think you're nuts. That's okay. Years ago, a friend of mine was teaching me about dog training, and she said, if you don't feel like an idiot when you're calling your dog the first few times, you're doing it wrong. And I think that this is kind of the same thing, because the way you're supposed to talk to your dog is supposed with a high squeaky voice like this. And if you don't feel like a moron when you're doing this, you're a very special kind of person. And the dog is over here completely ignoring me. Good boy. That's his job. He's the office assistant as I've moved everything here to the land of not quite wide enough green screen. I just don't want to sit any closer to the desk than I already am. I don't need for a castle to be back here. I have one in my mind. I'm a hypnotist. We do that crap. We don't tell you folks that we do that. But yes, while we're sitting there listening to you talk about wanting to swim faster, run faster, shoot straighter, not grip the club so hard. We sometimes think kind of highly of ourselves, but we do great work, so it's okay. I think we're allowed. because you should be kind to yourself. If you're not being kind to other people, do that first, but then be kind to yourself too. And of course, less is less. So if it's a feeling you don't like, find out where it is. First impression. What color is it? Pull it out and hold it in your hands. Notice if the color changed. Spin it in the opposite direction. Have it moving so fast that it can't possibly go back to the way it was before, and then snap it back in. And notice how it's different.
I have something to say, actually.
Yes.
Okay. So it's kind of a question, and I'm gonna take it away from just like saying story and then like put it into a question.
Okay.
I noticed that actually, as you were, even though I've heard of spinning, I've thought about it, Joni has done some teen talks on it, I've actually never registered before that my mom actually did it with me when I was probably 10 or so. Like, I kid you not, like very young. And I was having a really bad stomach ache. I didn't know what to do. And so I was panicking. I was kind of getting into that anxious mode. And I was so nervous because stomach pains are like what I see as like the utmost panic, because again, it's like gut, all those things. And so my mom, what she would do is she would always like, she would try to pull it out of me. So she would like use the rope and then she would jumble it up like it was just a piece of paper and then like throw it somewhere. And it was really interesting because I kid you not, like to this day, I don't think she'll ever call herself a hypnotist. She doesn't think she's certified in it. And yet when I was at swim meets and I was in that like very physical pain, I'd just go into like the bathroom stall. I would imagine my mom helping me out, and that was enough. So like, it's very interesting how even the people, like I'm thinking all about how are we resourceful right now in a creative lens?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I literally am thinking about something my mom would do, and she would never be in kind of the space. And it's interesting because you had to tell me something about my mom, which is just really revolutionary, right? And so I wanted to say thank you, but also like, again, the tuning out, like I've always heard of that, but my dad sometimes pretends it's a TV because we love TV so much. And so he'll always say like, you can just change this channel. And it's crazy because like, that's very similar language, but yours is so much more nuanced. This is why it becomes a profession, why it becomes someone's life mission. And so I keep on going back to like the people that might be reluctant in our lives to see what hypnosis can be, but yet they are already kind of using it. So that's kind of what I wanted to say.
Thank you for that. Yeah, you're describing something, it all comes together to a very good point, something that in, again, neurolinguistic programming is called a transderivational search. Neurolinguistic programmers love their jargon. The more syllables and the more words it takes to describe one thing, the better. And transderivational search is like when you're doing that reality check. When you're going inside and as you're doing that, you're selectively focusing your attention, and because you're going inside your unconscious mind, you're bypassing the critical faculty. In that moment, you're hypnotized. And of course, parents are the best hypnotists. To this day, 53 years old, my mother is 83 and lives in a senior living facility. And I don't talk to my mother about my business because she's never approved of me being self-employed. And every time I bring it up, it's always like, when are you going to go back to get a real job? When are you going to go real? Benefits, they're important. Yes, they are. That's why I pay for them.
Yeah, exactly.
And but still, it's like I'm 9 and I just told Mom that I wanted to be a space cowboy.
Always.
And yes, I did steal that from Firefly. Sorry.
That's great. Well, wow, you did so many great demonstrations, and I love your energy. I don't know if you saw that in the chat box.
I did. Thank you for that.
I'm sure all the viewers did as well. And I think that you just gave so many examples of how you can do things in the now. And I loved how you emphasize change now. You kept using the word now because that's what we want to be able to do right now in the midst of, we're talking about shifting and changing our identities to broaden them during this time, since there are some quote limitations on doing things the same way. Sure. And so, you've certainly been talking about doing things a different way and doing them quickly. And that's what we like about what we do, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The change occurs very quickly. You know, people ask you how
Sorry, my husband's sticking his head.
so,
That's what I've been asking him not to.
but
no, he's
I'll
just
say something else because I forgot what I was going to say. Instead, yeah, I mean, things do happen quickly, and people ask how long, how long is it going to take to change this problem? How long will it last? Well, how long would it have lasted if we didn't do anything? Okay, that long. Because why not?
right.
We're not sticking a Band-Aid on something. We're, as one of my teachers used to say, as long as you've got the hood up, fix the car.
Right. So on when you were doing the spinning, I was.
And did anybody notice that I jammed my finger when I did the first example of the slamming it back in?
No.
So just.
That's how passionate you are about doing it.
I hope you're all right. I hope you have a Band-Aid.
And I think the fact that you do,
do
you think it has anything to do with also the fact that you're a stage hypnotist as well, and you have all those great theatrics and.
It went the other way, really. I tell people that if there wasn't such a job as a clinical hypnotist, I would have had to invent it, because people sit in a chair with their eyes closed and pay me to talk to them. Okay. But the passion, the theatricality, I've always had this. I've always felt, and I've always taught, but I teach other hypnotists, that even though your client's eyes are closed a lot of the times and they're over there in their chair, that it brings something to your voice, to your vocal presentation, if you're being physical, if you're being demonstrative. I've always been somebody who talked with his hands. And I think it really helps to get the point across. It helps to create a certain kind of mood, a certain kind of vibe. When I'm working with the client, yes, I will start off talking with the hypnosis voice. And as I go on, I start to, once somebody's hypnotized, I bring things up a little bit. I'm not quite as nasal when I talk. I mean, I've got this serious Ohio voice, but I did a test once. I don't understand it completely. I was shown something that the proctors at the NLP trainers training were being shown, and we had a little extra time. Our assistant trainer brought us in, and there was a microphone hooked up to an oscilloscope. And you could modulate the tone of your voice. The idea was to create as close as you could to a perfect circle in the middle of that oscilloscope. And because of the architecture I was born with, because my father was a minister and I had lots of good examples on how to project, I'm able to hit that spot rather easily. And now I've got something to anchor to, because this is important, so I calibrated that really hard. And so I'm able to really get in, even as my voice has changed over the years, I'm pretty close to getting that nice round hypnotic spot, even when I'm being kind of, dramatic and all over the place, and, like I'm channeling Dan Candell. And that's a joke that like 3 of us are going to get. That's fine. Sometimes you tell a joke for 3 people.
Okay.
But yes, to answer your question, no, this came first and the stage hypnosis came later.
Well, so just to wrap up a couple of things that I noticed and that I wanted to just say about what I heard you talking about, and what I appreciate is I love the beginning when you were talking about what I call the voice shift. I don't know what you call it, but when you were having, changing the voices and, would you take that voice seriously, and, all of those things. I love that technique. I use that with athletes a lot. And it's just fantastic. And it's just a quick and easy way to change things. And not saying this, I want to say this in a very positive way. If coaches, and I'm sure, and I know they are listening to this, I do teach your athletes, and only for this reason, to be respectful and always hear the words that you're saying and the wisdom that you're providing them. But that there are times that maybe you're saying it in a way that isn't working for them. It could be your tonality. It could be just the delivery in general, and for whatever reason. And we know there are myriad of reasons that. We don't expect anyone to be perfect. In fact, we don't expect everyone to change. Not everyone wants to. Some coaches do want to have this information, and that's probably why you're watching it right now. And just don't know how. Again, back to our theme here is, just becoming aware and discovering what needs to change is just part of it. But how and where, and that's what we're all doing. And we're giving you the how. How can we do things that will result in change in a more permanent way, in a more, that becomes the habit that we actually want. And so I teach the athletes, similarly to the way Jeffrey was doing things earlier. And I say, sometimes I ask them to turn your volume down a little bit because maybe you're loud, and that's okay to be loud. And maybe you found in the past that's the only way that they'll listen. But sometimes by them being able to be an equal partner, not equal, but a partner in what you're saying to them and the reception of what they're getting, they need to turn the volume down a little bit because it simply works for them. Sometimes they need to turn it up, and that's what I teach them to do, that because they're not really listening when you're telling them the things that are going right. And so when you're saying you had a good kick, or you had a good this or that or the other, whatever it is you're complimenting them on, and you're
Row.
as you're making those adjustments and making those changes, so that at the end of this, we came at least close to, or we received or got beyond the expected goal. And so that's a great technique, and I appreciated that. I love how you talked about handling, how the mind handles negation, and that's a great example for everyone. And yeah, and you're right. I wish I'd known that earlier in my my parenting career. Another part of my identity. I have 3 children, and they're all grown now and grandchildren. So that it's good to know. Good to know.
The dark staining beverage family will get you.
Yeah, that's right. But coaches, and parents, as you're sending your athlete off to compete, and you say, don't forget, just remember this message. And if you didn't hear it, and you're just catching this, you're coming in on this part of things, be sure to listen to the recorded version and rewind and listen to that, what Jeff was talking about, because it's very important. Things like don't worry about.
Yeah.
Planning the suggestion, worry about. Don't get distracted by. Distract yourself by. Okay, so anyway, I'm not going to give your talk all over again. I just wanted to show my appreciation for it. And again, reinforcing what we all have, and that is focusing on what you want, the things that you want to get. And the more sensory input, the better. And experience.
Well, the more sensory input, the better, if it's a feeling that you want.
Right. And going on to more is more and less. They're going to listen to your talk, because again, I'm not going to do it again, but I'm just highlighting things that stood out. The spinning, the immediacy with which change can take place, and how great that is. And now, moving on, as I express my appreciation to you for giving your time, Jeffrey. You're always so great about that.
Thank you very much.